Welcome back to Tales that Terrify. Tonight, we're doing something a little different. Straight from the forgotten pages of 1950s comics, we've collected the strangest true tales ever printed. Ghost armies, cursed jewels, spectral ships, were-jackals, and things that should not be. This is Tales that Terrify on record. Real stories, real weird, pulled from the dust of public domain comics and brought back to life. So dim the lights and turn up the volume, and let's see what's on record. True Ghosts of History, the Ghostly Army of Bethune. Early in 1918, the German armies made a last desperate attack near the small Belgian town of Bethune, and the Allied lines were split wide open. Only a small squad of British riflemen were left behind to stem the vast Hun herds. "We can't stop 'em, but we'll go down fighting. Fixed bayonets!" But suddenly, an army of ghostly cavalry seemed to appear from nowhere. In front of the Germans, an army clad in white, all mounted on white horses whose legs never touched the ground. Himmel, was it? While the Kaiser's men gaped in petrified astonishment, the ghostly cavalry charged. Finally regaining their senses, the Germans poured a terrific concentration of shell and shot into the ranks of the Ghost Riders, but not a white horseman fell. Then the pride of the Kaiser's armies turned tail and fled in sheer terror, and the Allies were saved by the ghostly army of Bethune. Were they a figment of the fog? Or the spectral sleepwalker? It was in 1177 that young Richard the Lionhearted, then traveling in his duchy of Aquitaine, France, first set eyes on the lovely French girl known as Jeanne Le Blazon. "She's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. I will make her my queen." Prince Richard began to court Jeanne, but on a few days after he had first met her, "I must leave you, my love, to do battle with King Henry of England for the crown that is rightly mine. But I shall return for you when I am king. I'll be waiting, Richard, always." Day in, day out, the lovelorn Jeanne walked the Tower d'Orac outside the town of Carcassonne, waiting for word from her sweetheart. But one evening, a treacherous knight-at-arms in the employ of King Henry crept up behind the girl in an attempt to kidnap her and hold her as hostage. In the ensuing desperate struggle, Jeanne Le Blazon's earthly body died from the fall, but her spirit still lives on. She can still be seen on summer evenings walking on the Tower d'Orlac, her arms outstretched as if walking in her sleep or waiting for her sweetheart. Yes, Jeanne Le Blazon had said she would wait forever, and she still waits. But if you should ever visit Carcassonne and try to interrupt her nightly vigil, you'll find that she walks right through you. And that's exactly what happened to many a professor and explorer of the supernatural who came to examine the spectral sleepwalker. Mon Dieu, it's like mist passing, mist with a faint odor of mold and decay. Uncanny Mysteries, Dance of the Savages. If you're ever in the vicinity of the French towns of Saumur and Pontchartrain, reader, pay a visit to the weird valley that lies between them, if you can. It won't be easy, because the valley is closed at both ends by steeply rising hills, as if to prevent its haunted inhabitants from escaping. Ever since the days of King Charles the Bad in 1332, whenever unknown powers send the livestock into a frenzy, causing them to die mysteriously, French farmers know that the witches' Sabbath will occur in the valley that night. Mon Dieu, tonight comes le bal des sauvages, the dance of the savages. Precisely at midnight, grotesque witches emerge from the Pontchartrain woods. Then Satan himself is said to appear, to be greeted with wild, unearthly cries by the witches. Thus begins the dance of the savages, the dance of the witches' Sabbath, the strangest dance ever to be witnessed by mortal eyes. Few have seen it and lived, but those will never forget the uncanny, horrible sight for the rest of their lives. Uncanny Mysteries, the African were-jackals. On the Rhodesian Congo border at the northeastern portion of the Jonundo Swamp, strange rites have gone on for countless centuries, and by far the strangest of these is the uncanny Dance of the Jackal. witnessed and sworn to by a few white explorers and territorial commissioners. At the height of the wild dance, the native Nyanga, or witch doctor, pours a drug called bolandi into the mouths of two young initiates who have been chosen for the unholy lycanthropic rites. And suddenly it is said, "Great Scott! Do you see what I see? I'm afraid I do. Did it really happen, or is it just a case of mass hypnotism?" Yes, hypnotism or reality. Who can know except the were-jackals themselves? Uncanny Mysteries, The Phantom of Oliver Cromwell. Oliver Cromwell, one of the greatest military geniuses of history, was known to consult astrologers and wizards before going into battle. But according to Colonel Lindsay of General Cromwell's army, the general consulted a phantom on the fateful morning of September 23rd, 1651. "But, sir, how can you think of going for a walk at a moment when the army of King Charles is about to destroy our forces?" "Come, Colonel Lindsay, I go to make sure that we will destroy King Charles." When Cromwell led his aide into a gloomy forest near the battlefield, "Egad, stop! Ahead of us lies a being from another world. He frightens me not. This meeting was prearranged." The general went forward, while Colonel Lindsay stayed behind to overhear a weird and blood-chilling conversation. "But this is only for 7 years. You promised last time to give me 21. 7 years and no more. If you wish to win today's battle and rule over England, sign the document in blood. But you know the price." I'll sign, you devil." Hours later, Cromwell led his troops to a brilliant victory over the forces of King Charles II in the famous Battle of Worcester. "Flee! Cromwell must have the devil on his side." Sir Oliver Cromwell went on to become Lord Protector of England, but on September 3rd, 1658, the Lord Protector is dead. Aye, 7 years to the day after he met the Phantom at Worcester, and who knows what the price his soul is paying now. True Ghost Armies. On February 23rd, 1947, at La Angostura Pass, south of Saltillo, Mexico, one of the most famous battles of the Mexican War was fought, the Battle of Buena Vista, in which 4,600 Americans smashed a Mexican army of over 20,000 under General Santa Anna. Crack! Exactly 50 years later, on February 23rd, 1897, two Mexican peons working near La Angostura Pass were terror-stricken at the sight of "Por Dios! Look!" Then, as the eerie rumble of ghostly artillery echoed over the Sierra Madres, "Flee! They are ghosts! The ghosts of the men who died here!" Nothing more was seen of the phantom armies until February 23rd, 1947, when two American prospectors in the area witnessed the uncanny sight. "Great Scott! Do you see what I see?" I sure do. And if we both see it, it can't be just hallucination. It must be real." "Wait, I get it. This is the site of the Battle of Buena Vista. Those ghostly armies are reliving the battle." Boom! "You're right. And just the way the battle ended, with the Mexicans fleeing from the Americans' mass artillery." So far, the ghost armies of Buena Vista have appeared every 50 years since the battle was originally fought. Will they appear again on February 23rd, 1997? If you're near Angostura Pass on that date, find out for yourself. And I'll look into that and find out. Ghostly Adventures of History. In the 1580s, a powerful military figure came to prominence in battle-torn France, the third Duke of Guise. Knights by the thousands flocked to the banner of this popular leader, arousing the jealousy of King of France, Henry III. Fearing that Guise might turn against him and deprive him of his throne, Henry decided to gain the Duke's loyalty by making him a lieutenant general of the royal armies. "Now you must swear eternal fealty to me, the King of France." "I swear eternal fealty only to France itself." Alarmed at what he considered a threat, Henry summoned the Duke to the court of Blois on December 25th, 1588, and had him assassinated. "Kill him! Don't let him escape! I will be avenged!" Guise was avenged on August 1st, 1589, by a fanatical monk, Jacques Clement, who managed to secure an audience with the king. "Now you die, villain, for the murder of the Duke of Guise! Guards, seize him!" But suddenly an awful apparition from the unknown. It's the ghost of Guise! Flee before he strikes us dead!" Then, with the king abandoned by his guards, "Vengeance is mine! Die, tyrant!" The deed done, the ghostly avenger vanished, never to be seen again. Lost Island. One of the most fascinating legends to come down to us from the dim, mysterious past is that of the lost island of Atlantis, whose history was first set down in writing by Plato in the 3rd century BC. The lost island of Atlantis was a land larger than Asia Minor and Libya, lying just beyond the Pillars of Hercules. As the legends had it, Atlantis was a strange kingdom which was already great and old 10,000 years ago. Its people were many and strong, and their armies overran the entire Mediterranean basin, with only Athens resisting the onslaught. But the island's days of glory ended when the sea overwhelmed Atlantis. Finally, the land sank beneath the ocean, and nothing renamed to tell it had ever been, nothing but an ancient legend. But the legend of Atlantis is deeply embedded in the folk tales of too many different people for it to be a mere fictitious myth. So someday, someone may yet discover the lost island of Atlantis on the bottom of the sea floor. Will that someone be you, reader? The Pharaoh's Ruby. One of the weirdest of tales of cursed jewels concerns the enormous ruby which was found in the tomb of Haxan Ishtar in 1896. Gentlemen, I wouldn't venture to say how heavy this gem is, but it's clearly priceless. Incredible. Never in all my experience have I seen anything to match the perfection of this stone. I predict it'll be internationally famous. Fine. Well, we better be getting back to our work. A few moments after the scientists had re-entered the tomb. Good heavens, they're trapped, every last one of them. The ruby was taken by caravan to Alexandria and placed above a skip bound for England. But when the carman attempted to return to the tomb site, one of the worst sandstorms in Egyptian history struck with hurricane fury. 5 days the wind blows without signs of ending. Food and water are nearly gone. We are doomed. Aboard the SS Kensington 5 days at sea. At least my colleagues did not die in vain. The rubies in the ship's safe will win them a passage in the annals of archaeology. You're wanted on the bridge, Captain. The barometer's falling fast. 72 hours of unrelieved hammering by night waves, and the Kensington sprang a leak. Distress calls went out, the last ever heard from the ship. SOS, SOS, SOS. Years passed before scholars pieced together the varied aspects of the mystery. The calamitous events have come to be attributed to the mysterious agency of the Pharaoh's Ruby, now lying in the battered hulk of a ship on the bottom of the Mediterranean. United forever. Recently, a small Vermont hamlet was startled by an event which sent scholars scurrying through the old colonial records. The facts unearthed concerned the strange love between Hester Pratt and Roger Burgess were as follows. My knowledge cannot save Hester. She will not live through the night. Don't let her die, doctor, don't. But in 1650, pneumonia usually meant death. Scant days later, accept unto thy merciful bosom, O Lord. Courage, Roger. She is gone, and you must live. How can I, when my heart is being buried with her? So Roger withdrew from the world to become a lonely recluse. This is madness, Roger. 10 years have passed. You must forget her and choose another. Never. Leave me to my thoughts. Stung by grief, Roger's death came soon. I believe he is happier now. At least he lies on the same ground as his beloved Hester. But he wished to be buried next to her. It was wrong for Hester's relatives not to allow his body into their family plot. Down the long centuries, the old graveyard remained undisturbed, but recently it was removed to a new site to make room for a modern highway. When the workmen dug up the ancient coffins, holy mackerel, this coffin of Roger Burgess, it's empty. Looks like the work of some ghoul back in those times. But when the coffin of Hester Pratt was uncovered, look, there's a man's skeleton lying next to the box. Do you think? You read the facts, reader. What do you think? Everyday superstitions. In this modern day of 20th century science, most of us disclaim superstition, insist that it has no place in our lives. Perhaps that's true, to a degree, but how many of us can claim to be free of at least one of these everyday superstitions? If you don't mind, reader, I'll serve as your guide to these common superstitions. There's the first, the fear of walking under a ladder. It doesn't make sense. Now, there's a lady who's terrified because a black cat has crossed her path. Isn't that ridiculous? Some people feel that to look at the new moon over your left shoulder is a sure sign that something bad will happen, but you and I don't believe that, do we? Now, this fellow has just spilled some salt and is sure that trouble will come his way. When will people stop putting stock in such trash? What have we here? This gentleman seems to have broken a mirror, and he won't sleep for worry. How foolish can a man get? I'm sure that you and I aren't like that, reader, because I'm not superstitious. Are you? Uncanny mysteries. No one suspected what startling events would ensue when two boys found Jiminy, it's a dead man, washed in from the sea. When the police took over, fingerprints identified the man as Joey Moreno, a cheap hoodlum with a long record. He used to work with a thug named Butch Adams, pick him up and grill him. When the detective's investigation was complete, couldn't get a thing out of Adams. Chief said he hadn't seen Moreno in months. Looks like a gang murder. Not much we can do till we get a lead. Next day, an unstamped and unpostmarked letter arrived. Holy smoke, this letter says Moreno and Adams pulled the Seattle bank job 6 weeks ago, and that Adams bumped his pal off to keep the dough for himself. And there's a map showing where they buried this haul till the heat blew over. Police put the spot under surveillance until... Get him up, Adams. Guess you did too much talking, rat, because we'd never have nailed you without the help of a stoolie. But I didn't tell anybody. Nobody knew about this but me and Moreno. Police were baffled as to the identity of the stool pigeon until... Chief, look at this. The handwriting experts say the letter we got was written by Joey Moreno. That's impossible. Dead men don't write letters. What's your opinion, reader? Psychic researchers are still trying to determine whether the following facts indicate any supernatural agency. They concern the great rooted bucking horse, Cyclone. Doggone it, nobody can ride that critter. Cyclone was an outlaw only when a man tried to ride it. Otherwise, he was gentle as a lamb. Some cowboys said he even had a sense of humor. This hoss has been throwing us for more than 10 years. Someday he'll slow down. Maybe, maybe not. Cyclone died at the age of 27, unconquered. For months afterwards, he was a topic of conversation among cowboys as they traveled from rodeo to rodeo. Well, at least we're rid of that killer for good. Amen. He won't be throwing any of us anymore. They discussed the great horse far into the night until finally, let's hit the hay, men. Yeah, cyclones caused us enough sleepless nights. All was corroborated afterwards. The three men had the same disturbing dream. Ouch! Oof! Hey! They awoke simultaneously. Humpin' Jiminy! I dreamed Cyclone threw me. You did? So did I. Me too. A coincidence? It would seem so. Except for the air raid conductor's words. What's going on here? The whole car's awake. Everybody says they're hearing a horse whinnying in here. Huh? What about it, reader? Do you think Cyclone was guilty of a bit of supernatural horseplay? The Moroccan Prince. The annals of the sea contain many strange and mystifying disappearances, but none more than fantastical than that of the English merchantman known as the Moroccan Prince. On April 19, 1738, 36 years from the British port of Southampton. It's the Moroccan Prince, Captain Marl. Lucky fellows, they'll land by tomorrow night, while our 2-year voyage is just beginning. 1 month later, in the offices of Johnston and Sheed, owners of the Moroccan Prince. I can't understand it. The vessel should have landed weeks ago. Stop worrying. Perhaps bad weather had delayed it. But when months has passed with no word, she's lost. Worse luck. Our best ship. Aye, we'd best collect the insurance from Lloyd's of London. In due time, the insurance was paid, and the incident assumed to be a common disaster. Years afterward, when Captain Marl returned to Southampton, he could hardly believe his ears. The Moroccan prince? Lost? That's impossible. I passed it 36 hours before and noted it on my log. If they'd seen trouble, they'd have hailed us, and there were clear weather for days. Captain Marl's report was confirmed. What had happened to the fine ship, almost within sight of land, with not a single hazard between it and the dock, to this day, no one has ever learned. But a ship can't just disappear without a single survivor in calm water, within rowing distance of land. But it happened, and I dare say it'll happen again. Ornithologists have long been placing identification bands around the legs of young birds so as to study their habits of migration. Many unusual discoveries have been made and a few startling mysteries. Well, we're almost through with this batch, just plain everyday pigeons. Right, now let's hope we get reports on where the pigeons go to. A few years later. Strange how far afield these pigeons have gone. Some of them have been found way out west. I guess we better close the study on Group R7762. Not likely we'll get many more reports. Duck hunting was the favorite sport of both men and on their following vacation. Got to! Bam! Bam! The locale was Northern Carolina and work was very far from their minds when the retriever brought the game back. Here, boy! Say, that's not a duck he's bringing back. It's a pigeon. But who ever heard of a pigeon flying with ducks? I'll be. This bird is banded R7762, one of the very birds we marked. That isn't the only thing that's strange. Take a good look at it. That we banded was an ordinary bird. How did that number get on a passenger pigeon? A bird that was totally extinct before we were born. And this is a story that's actually accounted in the Book of the Damned by Charles Trout. So, I read that on the show as well. Out of the Unknown. Secret of the Ice. As an Arctic expedition made its way through a howling blizzard, we'd better hole up with the Eskimos and wait for our relief ship to pick us up. It meant weary weeks of waiting to while away the time they absorbed the native legends. The story of the Vilik is handed down to us from our ancestors. Once it truly existed, a polar bear that was half human. Ha ha! Got any more fairy tales? When the relief ship finally broke its way through the ice. So long, Pappy. If we meet any of those Viliks, we'll give them your regards. The way out was menaced by floating icebergs of all sizes, and as they passed close to one in particular, I'll be. Isn't that a polar bear frozen in the ice? No, it isn't. Look closer and prepare yourself for a shock. There, before their astounded eyes, that isn't a paw, it's more like a human hand. But the passing of the ship and the unsettled ice had unsettled the iceberg. As it nosed over, there she goes, and whatever it contained, it's gone forever. Is there really such a thing as a Vilik? What do you think, reader? Out of the Unknown. Strange centaur. Aboard a ship en route for Spain. Whenever we leave on an expedition, I'm excited. After all, we never know what we're going to find. But this one is routine. Remember, we're just looking for cave drawings left by ancient peoples. Cut and dried stuff. Cut and dried, that's the way it seems until... Nothing unusual here. Dr. Poles, look, dislodged rock and there's another cavern under this one. Beneath, a surprising find. Why, it's a picture of a mythological centaur, half man, half horse, and done by people incredibly older than those of the cave above. Then, say, this whole rock is loose. There's something behind it. Look out! In the niche behind, great Scott! The skeleton of a centaur! But within a moment, exposure to the air had its effect, and the bones had turned to powder. Well, at least we can say one thing. We saw the last of the centaurs. The pity of it is, no one will ever believe us. What do you think, reader? Explanation, please. The dog that lived again. It was the year 1392. The King of France, together with a party of his courtiers, was hunting in the royal forest. Accompanying group was a court jester and the jester's dog. Fool, you dare bring along such a cur on a royal hunt? Let the beast remain. Its strange appearance amuses me. Fortunate words, for when a fierce boar menaced the king, it was the dog that proved a lifesaver. Thank heavens! The dog died in his battle against the big tusker. In gratitude for having been thus spared, the king ordered that the dog be stuffed and mounted, and displayed beneath the monarch's portrait. Time passed. It was 200 years later that another French ruler found himself in dire peril, this time from a mad dog. Mad dog! Mad dog! Oh! At the last moment, a strange animal hurled to the rescue. Fearlessly, it destroyed the attacking beast, but met death in the process. The brave creature, it saved my life. Grateful for his good fortune, the king ordered that the courageous animal be stuffed and mounted, then displayed in the royal museum below his portrait. And there an astounding discovery was made. It, it's the same dog! Can you explain it, reader? Explanation, please! The Civil War Mystery. A southern hospital, an emergency case had just been brought in. It could be bad. He's out like a light. Seems like a hitchhiker and was run down on the road. His name's Tom Phillips, 24 years old, comes from Philadelphia. The injured man recovered consciousness during the night. He seemed strangely agitated. Everything's gonna be alright. Just take it easy, Mr. Phillips. What do you mean, Phillips? My name's Richard Fennell, of the Fennell Hall, just outside of Valdosta. You look like a good southerner. Listen, buried all the family's money and silver at the bottom of an old dry well just behind Fennell Hall, to hide it from Sherman's army. If Sherman's already passed through, see that my mother and sisters get it. They'll need it. There. I'll see to it, I promise. Young Dr. Adams, who had overheard all this, was strangely impressed by the story, enough to launch an investigation. When he'd gathered the facts, there really was a Richard Fennell. Here's a daguerreotype of him taken by Brady. Fennell was killed in a cavalry skirmish during the Civil War. Look at that picture. Do you notice anything? Well, I'll be. Richard Fennell of 1864, Tom Phillips, 1956. They could be the same man. Dr. Adams, now determined to check further, he sought out Fennell Hall near Valdosta. You're on a wild goose chase, mister. This is all that's left of the old hall. It burned in 1866. What I'm really looking for is the remains of a well. And there it is. Men were secured to dig out the old well, and buried deep within it they found a treasure buried almost a century ago by the very twin of a young man now in the hospital. How did Tom Phillips know the secret of Richard Fennell? Can you explain it, reader? Famous mediums. Daniel Douglas Home was born in Scotland in 1833, but was brought to Connecticut when still a small boy. By the time he was 13, he had given his parents cause for alarm. I'm worried about Danny. He seems to be living in another world half the time. The other day, he claimed he could communicate with spirits. At 17, he demonstrated his inexplicable abilities before a group of friends at a party. See that table? I'm going to make it rise. You can't fool us. Let's see. Rise. Upward. Holy cow! In that year, 1850, began his fabulous career as a medium and spiritualist. I shall cause furniture to move without cause, materialize forms out of thin air, and myself float upward. Innumerable attempts were made to expose Daniel Home as a fraud, but none ever succeeded. Year after year, he performed the same phenomenal feats. He's hovering in midair. Home died in 1886, wealthy with the great gifts admirers had showered on him. To this day, his career is sure to provoke arguments among scholars. I say he was a charlatan. Nonsense. Competent scientists investigated him time and again. Facts of Holmes' life may be found in almost any encyclopedia. What's your opinion, reader? The Time Capsule. In a Belgian coal mine shortly before the Second World War, I seem to have struck some strange object. It rings like metal. Impossible. You don't find metal in veins of coal. But metal it proved to be, as miners worked around it. This isn't iron ore. It's a man-made object. Look how it gleams. What could it be? When the object is freed and brought to the surface, there's a door in the side. We're not to touch it. Archaeologists would be arriving any minute. Using acetylene torches, the object was entered. Its contents proved staggering. Books, maps, machines. It's fantastic. It's a time capsule buried by civilization which existed hundreds of thousands of years ago. The chief archaeologist granted an interview to the press. Our civilization buries time capsules too, so that future ages may know what we were like. But this case is special. The books are in a language none of us has ever seen. The maps show the Earth as it existed a million years ago. Gentlemen, long before the cavemen, there was a civilization surpassing ours. Annals of the Occult. A well-documented case concerning an apparition took place on the morning of March 19, 1917. A young English woman living in India was playing with her baby when suddenly, strange, I've got the strongest feeling I must turn around. To her amazement, she saw her brother. Eldred, good heavens, what are you doing here? The First World War was in progress, and her brother was a combat flyer. Thinking he had been sent to India, she was overjoyed to see him. She turned for an instant to put the baby back in the crib, but when she looked up again, Eldred, what on? He's gone. When she searched the whole house, are you sure nobody came into the house? Absolutely sure? No one has been here, Missy. At that point, she became very frightened and was seized with the awful certainty that her brother was dead. 2 weeks later, Eldridge's name on this obituary list. It says he was shot down in combat on the morning of March 19th. What's the answer? During the war in the Pacific, Lieutenant Don Allison was shot down in flames. Badly wounded, he managed to escape from the sinking plane in a rubber boat. He was semi-conscious when he became aware of being hoisted aboard a ship. It was the hospital ship Dakota. He could see the doctors and nurses through a haze of delirium. We've done all we can for him. Now let him be transferred. Time seemed to pass endlessly. The next thing he knew, he was awakened by a shout. What's happened? I'm back in my rubber boat drifting. Ahoy there! Don't worry, we're coming to pick you up. Taken aboard the destroyer, he told his story. And that's all I remember, until I woke up to find myself back in my rubber boat, being picked up by your men. But how did I get there? What happened to that hospital ship, the Dakota? I don't get it. I don't get it either. According to what you said, you were shot down on October 5th. But the Dakota was torpedoed and went down with all hands on August 12th, almost 2 months before that. And yet we picked you up mid-ocean with bandages and dressings that show expert medical care. What's the answer? What's the answer? It all began when an ancient asphalt pit in California was being drained. We got something big there. We'll see what it is in a minute. It is a tremendous scientific find, preserved through the ages by sheltering asphalt. Holy smokes, it's a dinosaur, and perfectly preserved. Wow! The manner in which the ancient beast had met its death was at once apparent. It was killed by something penetrating its body. I wonder, could that have been a caveman spear? Man didn't exist in the age of dinosaurs millions of years ago. Let's see if we can get the asphalt off that thing and see what it is. The cleaning job was done, and finally, well, what did it turn out to be? I'm still betting on a spear. Better get set for a surprise, boys. You won't believe what you're going to see. There it was, the object that had slain the huge creature countless centuries past. Human civilization goes back just a few thousand years, which means that whoever fired this was someone from out of this world. Picture of the future. The American Museum expedition had made a great find. No doubt about it, this is the earliest civilization ever discovered. Dr. Johnson! Dr. Johnson! Take it easy, Andrews. What happened? We've broken through into a huge cavern that shows indications of civilization far older than this one and far more advanced. They lost no time in descending into the cavern. This is amazing. Paintings of animals so old they're unknown to modern science. Say, what's that? It's a strange device wrecked by countless centuries. It's unbelievable, but this must be a mechanical civilization existing a million years ago. This looks like some sort of complicated camera, but I wonder what sort. Nearby was the answer, an ancient chest containing pictures. But what pictures? Holy smoke! Washington crossing the Delaware, Abraham Lincoln, the flag raising in Iwo Jima. How could these pictures exist in a civilization which vanished before history even began? We were wondering what sort of camera it could have been. Now we have our answer. Incredible though it may be, that ancient race was so far advanced as to possess a camera which could photograph the future. Superstitious notes. Folklore and superstition have been associated in all man's activities down through the ages. Musical instruments have played a fascinating part in this history. For example, in ancient Sparta, the music of the oboe was supposedly capable of luring crabs from their holes. And in medieval Europe, the violin was called the devil's instrument. So long as he fiddled, all who heard the music were forced to dance until he stopped playing. That was superstition. In South America, the Aymara Indians of Peru blew a sacred cow's horn when hailstorms threatened their crops. They believed that the shrill blast of the horn would drive the hail away. Stranger still, in ancient Greece, it was common belief that a flute played while one slept would curl straight hair. Amongst the ancient Aztecs, drums were often carved into the shape of wild animals. It was thought that the strength of these wild creatures through the beating of the drums would be imparted to the players. Even to this day, musical superstitions still persist, and in many a Burmese village, whenever a cholera epidemic strikes, the drums are pounded in hope of driving the evil off. Call in the night. It happened on a frosty, clear night, and it started with a telephone message. Fire Chief John W. Crane answered the call. Fire at 346 Elm? We'll be there in 5 minutes. Speedily, the fire equipment was on the scene. You mean someone's in there? Sure is, Chief. Old man Parkins lives there, and no one saw him come out. On receiving this information, firemen made a daring entry into the building, and in the nick of time. Just put your weight on us, Pop. We'll get you out of here. It's my legs. Haven't been able to use them in 2 years. Tried to get out. Couldn't. Later, when Fire Chief Crane made out his report, we received a call on the fire by someone who said he was Danny. Would you know who that would be, Mr. Parkins? Danny is my son, Chief. A real fine boy. Yes, Chief, Danny is a fine boy. He's always looking after me. He wouldn't let any harm come to his old father, not Danny. Then why isn't he here now? How could he be, when he died at Baton? But he's here, watching over me, just like he promised he always would. A subsequent check proved that Corporal Daniel Parkins was killed on Baton on April 6, 1942, and all attempts to trace Fire Chief Crane's mysterious caller have gone unsolved. There are many mysteries, but few stranger than the strange secret of 1207 Picket Lane. Ever since the old house was new, it had been going on, those strange, unexplained noises. Ah, me, those noises again. I can't stand it another day. We're moving out. Tenant after tenant departed. There was peace only when the old house was empty. For rent, cheap. Finally, the realty firm that owned it couldn't take it any longer. The house was torn down, and on its site, yes, sir, we've gotten rid of the trouble, whatever it was. We're putting up a new 4-family house now, and we'll make some money out of it for a change. And finally, a new 1207 Picket Lane awaited its occupants. The new tenants moved in, but on the very first night, me. Today, if you pass 1207 Picket Lane, you'll see apartments for rent. Name your own price. Could it be that it wasn't the house, but the site itself? What caused it? If you know the strange secret of 1207 Picket Lane, please comment and tell us. The Master of Time. It was the end of the 17th century that Dr. Talagari first appeared at the courts of Europe. His skill as an alchemist amazed everyone. Fascinating, he has created a nugget of gold out of plain stones. This was no mere charlatan, for the mysterious doctor with a wave of his hand could heal the sick and make the lame walk. No one knew from whence Talgari came. 1,000 rumors sprang to life, but when they questioned the doctor's servant, "My good man, is it true that your master has walked this earth for more than 3,000 years? I cannot tell you for certain, Signori. You see, I myself have only served him for 1,100 years." But the doctor's mysterious powers smacked of witchcraft to the superstitious people of his day, and one day an angry mob set fire to Talagari's residence. That'll bring him out. He never emerged. The house burned to the ground, but they found nary a trace of Dr. Talgari in the ashes. That proves he was a witch. Was he, or was he the greatest man in the world has ever known? We'll never be able to answer that question now. The Golden Knight. As the town of Lorraine fell before the brutal assault of Duke Nero's invaders, the people prayed for help. The Golden Knight will help us in our hour of need. Our legends say he will answer the call of the people whenever they need him. But the Golden Knight stood silently in his niche as the Duke seized the town and brought Lorraine's patriots to trial. For resisting my troops, you are guilty of treason. I sentence you to the gallows. It was then that a clarion voice rang out over the square. Duke Nero, I speak for your victims. On their behalf, I challenge you to a trial by combat. The Golden Knight! Trial by combat? So let it be. They fought then by lance and sword, and the Gold Knight was invincible. Duke Nero fell beneath his mighty blows. Our champion wins! Duke Nero is slain! With their leader gone, the invaders fled. But when the people surrounded the champion, suit of armor, it's empty. Today, the Golden Knight stands in the town square once more. Actually, he is nothing but a suit of gilded armor, but the children of Lorraine all know the legend. Yes, monsieur, it's true. Whenever the people of Lorraine call him, the Golden Knight will answer them in their need. The little man who wasn't there. It was at the outdoor exhibit on the square that Cameron Lane spotted it, the pitifully shrunken and half-starved figure lost among his dungaree-clad colleagues. Please, sir, would you buy my painting? All I ask is $5. I need the money so badly. He was a pitiful sight, so out of the kindness of his heart, Cameron bought the painting. Well, I don't understand this abstract art very well, but here's the $5 anyhow. Thank you, sir. You'll never regret it. Never. It was 2 days later that a visiting friend and art dealer noticed the canvas in Lane's study. Cameron, my boy, your taste is improving. Where did you ever find this magnificent Ravagne painting? Oh, do you know the artist? I bought that from him 2 days ago at the outdoor exhibit downtown. Poor fellow was half starved. That's impossible. Ravagne's been dead 25 years. He died of starvation. His paintings are worth a fortune today. But I saw the man with my eyes. Thy bride-up swole of a man with a Van Dyke beard and a beret, come on downtown and I'll show you. They hastened to the exhibit, but there, from your description, the artist could have been the immortal Ravagne, but where is he now? I tell you, I saw him here, spoke to him, bought that painting from him. It's years since now. Lane's canvas has been declared a genuine Ravagne, a masterpiece worth a fortune. Well, he said I'd never regret buying it, and I guess I haven't. The ancestor. For generations, the Higbees had answered their country's call, and now, as John Higbee departed to serve in World War II, to you, Hiram Higbee, General of the Artillery in Washington's Army, I hope I'm half the soldier you were. In the Battle of the Bulge, Captain Higbee, we're trapped, and that Tiger tank has us in its sights. We'll have to stick it out, boys. We can't retreat or the whole line will collapse. Suddenly, out of nowhere, looks like our artillery has finally opened up. But how'd they spot that tank in this fog? Yes, in spite of the mist, the shell fire was deadly accurate. That's our finish, Captain. Blam! Come on, men, we're moving up. We got those Nazis on the run. But as they passed the burned-out tank, good grief, will you look at this shell we threw at them? I didn't think the Army had ammunition like this anymore. You're right, shells of that type haven't been made since the Revolutionary War. Where could it have come from? But by the time John Higbee arrived home safely 2 years later, he had it all figured out. To you, General, and thanks for everything. Exchange student. At a famous Eastern university, Jess Compton, a newspaper reporter, was interviewing foreign students visiting on an exchange program. Thank you for your interview, sir. I've learned a lot about your home country. If you really want an interesting interview, why don't you speak to Miss Nefertiti? Maybe you can learn more about her than the rest of us have. But when Jess tried to speak to her in the library, Miss Nefertiti, I'm from the evening press, and I'm sorry, I cannot answer any questions. I must leave now. Hey, she left her notebook here. Maybe I can find her address inside. But when he opened the notebook, great Scott! Why, this book is full of Egyptian hieroglyphics. Strangely, Miss Nefertiti was never seen again. As for the notebook, it crumbled to dust within a day. And when the college lab checked it, our carbon-14 test shows that parchment is at least 3,000 years old. And yet Miss Nefertiti was using it to take notes on, and she wrote those notes in hieroglyphics. You're sure this Miss Nefertiti was a foreign student? Yes, an exchange student. But from where or when? Uncanny Mysteries, the Spectral Sky Ship. By January 1646, the vessel Fellowship sailed from the colony of New Haven for England with an enormously rich cargo and a distinguished passenger list. The watchers on shore joined in on the minister's heartfelt words. Lord, if it be thy pleasure to bury these our friends in the bottom of the sea, they are thine, but we pray thee, spare them. But the months lengthened into a year without word from the Fellowship. Each time another ship arrived from England, its captain was eagerly questioned by the worried colonists. The Fellowship. She couldn't have reached England or I would have heard of her. Then she must have been lost with all hands on board. Let us pray that we may be given some indication of what happened to our ship and loved ones. Then, the following summer, after a violent thunderstorm had passed over New Haven, "Look! Up in the sky! It's the Fellowship!" Crowds poured out into the streets to witness the astonishing sight of the lost ship sailing on a cloud through the sky. The cloud seemed to drop, and the ship sailed in close and almost brushed the church steeple. "That's the Fellowship, all right, just as we saw her 2 winters ago. Yes, and there's Captain Lambert on the quarterdeck. This is a miracle." But suddenly, without warning, the billowing clouds rushed over the spectral ship like storm waves. Its rigging was blown away, the masts fell on top of the seamen, and within a few minutes the vessel was reduced to a battering hulk. Minutes later, the ghostly Fellowship sank slowly into the cloud, as if sinking into the briny deep, while the New Haven colonists looked on in horror and awe. Now we know the fate of the Fellowship. And that's it for this volume of Tales That Terrify on record. Which story unsettled you the most? The ghostly armies of Bethune, the Pharaoh's Ruby, or something even stranger? Drop your answer in the comments. If you enjoyed this, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We've got plenty more forgotten pages to dig up. And if you'd like to read this for yourself, you can currently find a copy on the marketplace in Grace's Boutique. And you will also receive a digital copy with your copy for Second Life. So, yeah. Until next time, sleep well, or don't. Good night.
Step right up and come on in. Here's where the fun begins. There's so much to do, getting ready just for you. Everybody's busy, bringing you some SL Toons. Can't you feel the buzz? Well, you're gonna feel the buzz because everybody's busy, just a little dizzy, bringing you some SL Toons. Camera, action, lights, you won't believe the sights and sounds. We got spills, we got thrills and more, bringing you some SL Toons.